They have new badges now. Let's take that off the screen real quick. You have it right in front of the screen real quick. Oz, I'm so sorry. You have something in the screen right there, buddy. Welcome back to the Combo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
Yeah, Fiorella.
And Oz is on the ones and twos. See what I'm talking about, brother? Yeah, I know. It's just... Okay. Let me check. Fee, I'm going to check my computer while you get going, and I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. Guys, what's up? What is up? So we have a guest coming on. We have Dan Cohen coming on shortly to talk about a couple things. He also wrote an article. Also, we're going to talk about Gonzalo, his latest disappearance. He just hasn't gotten back to anybody. He missed a show with the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway. He missed several other interviews with multiple journalists. And we're a little worried. We're all, well, very worried about this because he has said many times that he is a Mark fan. So, yeah. And Pasta doesn't know how to literally not talk when he's told he's hot mic'd. So one of these days, you guys are going to catch him say something ridiculous because every time Oz says hot mic, Pasta decides he wants to talk more than he actually even talks. So.
Are you done, fam? Are you done?
You know, I had to say that, fam, because you do that. You do that all the time. And it's quite, you know, very positive.
I do it on purpose, for sure, and stuff. Okay. All right, there you are. Boom. So we have a great show for you today, ladies and gentlemen, as Fee talked about right off the jump. Very nervous seeing what's going on with Gonzalo. We're going to bring in a special guest in about 10 minutes after we go through a few of the first part. Dan Cohen will be joining us live today from Mint Press. He wrote an article not too long ago. I think it's important to kind of point this out before we get into the whole Gonzalo situation, which is very scary. And fam, I'm sure, just like our Congress was going crazy with Khashoggi, right? And the Turkish reporter that got chopped up by MBS in I believe he was in Turkey. Was he in Turkey or was he in Saudi Arabia? I believe they grabbed him in Turkey when, MBS's goons grabbed him for being a reporter and opening up his mouth. So I'm sure the squad will be out there for Gonzalo Lira, right? Yeah, wrong. Not going to happen. But let's just dive right onto this stuff because it's really interesting. There was an article. And, I just made a tweet recently, fam, that we as Americans have to start owning now what the intelligence apparatus is doing. We ingested this type of culture that's going on in Ukraine. In 2014, through the puppet government, we empowered this crazy Nazi fascist government that's there because we wanted them to be a thorn in the ass of Russia. We also wanted to throw up some biolabs, but things have been going crazy ever since. So when I see the progressives using Zelensky to replace Fauci, when they were just out there praising Fauci, psychopath that he is, now they're praising Zelensky. It's quite stressful. So this is one less traitor, and this was written by our good friend Max Blumenthal and Isha over at the gray zone. One less traitor. Zelensky oversees campaign of assassination, kidnapping, and torture of political opposition. Very much like the MBS situation over there. And now a thug has come to power, fam. And he's whacking people. He's killing people. He's torturing people. This is the type of element we supported in the Ukraine, did we not?
Well, the government supported in Ukraine at the time. The State Department, the Department of Defense was involved also in these biolabs. That is confirmed. And so what we're seeing is an attempt to dismiss all of that, an attempt to pretend that none of that happened. And it's honestly, Russia has said that they're going to lay it all out, that they're going to pretty much expose everything that the United States and the West and Ukraine are trying to hide, specifically regarding war crimes, which is what we're going to talk about. I have a video that I really want to show from blocked channel RT International, where it talks about this, and it talks about the actual prevalent fascism. I mean, it's hilarious. These people that have spent the last couple of years calling us red brown and calling us, like, saying we like Nazis are eerily silent or completely dismissive of this situation that's happening right now. These are comparable to ISIS. These military war crimes that are happening from the Azov and from the Ukrainian army, which is basically what's left, is the fascist army. And I don't even say neo anymore, because they are fully Nazis. And, you know, we don't sit here and talk about Nazis as in terms of a Trump supporter or in terms of a Proud Boy. We're talking about paramilitary Banderite fascists who follow a very proud, a very glorified Nazi agenda. And we've talked about this ad nauseum. We've had multiple people on who, like Alex Rubinstein and Dan before, and a bunch of people who have talked about this at length. So yeah, I'll just let you take it away specifically.
Yeah, we're just going to read a little bit of this. And what kind of, I mean, this is the part, like, when Trump was whacking, he tried to whack Julian Assange. He was going to allow Pompeo to do that. But then he whacked Soleimani. I mean, what kind of mentality is that? It's a bunch of gangsters and thugs. And it's kind of disgusting. And ditto to what you said, now they're just trying to kind of ignore what went on, trying to recreate history. I think a lot of people, fam, that kind of like were just emotional and reactionary once this whole thing started off. Oh, we got to stop Russia's occupation and blah, blah, blah. They're kind of reeling it back and going, wow, that's what's going on in Ukraine. Some of us have been saying it's the toilet bowl, the cesspool for the United States to piss and shit wherever they want. They'll biolabs, human smuggling, weapons smuggling, letting Nazis be part. And Rubinstein wrote glorious about this, about the street politics, enforcing these thugs and these freaking cartel-like minded people in street politics. While claiming to defend democracy, Ukraine's Volodymyr Green Screen Zelensky has outlawed his opposition, ordered his rivals' arrest, and presided over the disappearance and assassination of descendants across the country. And it just makes me scary to think about what these people have to go through when they get captured, how they're tortured. We've already seen what a lot of the Azov battalion is doing to the citizens in the Donbass region. This is scary, fam. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has framed his country's war against Russia as a battle for democracy itself. In a carefully choreographed address to U.S. Congress on March 16, Zelensky stated, "Right now, the destiny of our country is being decided, the destiny of our people, whether Ukrainians will be free, whether we will be able to preserve their democracy." And I do that because this goon was given some time during the Grammy Awards to talk about this, and he's got this awful freaking wannabe Batman voice. U.S. corporate media has responded by showering Zelensky with fawning press, driving a campaign for his nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize, fam, and inspiring a flamboyant musical tribute to himself and the Ukrainian military during the 2022 Grammy Awards ceremony on April 3rd. Western media has looked the other way, however, as Zelensky and top officials in the administration have sanctioned a campaign of kidnapping, torturing, and assassination of local Ukrainian lawmakers accused of collaborating with Russia. Several mayors and other Ukrainian officials have been killed since the outbreak of war, many reported by Ukrainian state agents after engaging in a de-escalation talks with Russia. There is one less traitor in Ukraine. Internal Affairs Ministry advisor Anton Gerashenko stated in an endorsement of the murder of a Ukrainian mayor accused of collaborating with Russia. Now, fam, can you imagine if they're having this kind of like jumpiness and just eliminating anybody that they think is Russian? How many people do they think that are collaborating with the Russians aren't actually with the Russians, that they are just killing just in case? When you have a mentality that you can whack your oppositions.
So this is what the United States government has done for ages. This is reminiscent of what a lot of the policing does, the surveillance state. This is reminiscent of all of that. This is nothing new in terms of how criminals, actual criminals in power, operate. But of course, they use the caveats and they use gaps in the law to justify that they're operating under this democratic desire to bring sovereignty and democracy into a country that they, already completely took away any sort of democracy from 8 years ago when they installed their puppet. So it's just kind of, it's ridiculous, and it is extremely obvious that they're trying to dismiss this. And like you said it. Imagine if we actually condemned this. Imagine if this wasn't told like it was just the Russians. I don't think we mentioned this, but there was that commercial with this actress that like assassinated a man with it was obviously fake, but it was assassinated what was supposed to be a Russian, and it was this propaganda that was promoted with this Ukrainian actress. And that sort of thing, that sort of beheading and that sort of violent war crime and retaliation and treating prisoners of war in this way is reminiscent of ISIS, 100,000%. So, but because it's Ukraine, Americans are pretending it's something else entirely. So, they're entirely brainwashed. And I want to show, well, I'll let you go, but I just want to show the video that really talks a little bit more about that.
No. Let's get right into the video because, let's just jump right into it.
Not long ago, Westerners were mostly in agreement that the neo-Nazi Azov battalion was horrific. After all, who wouldn't be upset with statements like this one?
The Ukrainian nation's mission is to lead the white races of the world in a final crusade against Semite-led Untermenschen.
That was a quote from Andrei Beletsky, one of Azov's founders and its first commander. In 2014, he was elected to parliament and served for 5 years, despite the whole country knowing that he founded not only Patriots of Ukraine, but also the Social National Assembly. These were two neo-Nazi organizations that became known for attacks on Ukrainian minority groups. Around the same time, Azov was integrated into the National Guard, making Ukraine the only country in the world to have neo-Nazi regiments in the official armed forces. And President Vladimir Zelensky still doesn't seem to lose any sleep over that.
Azov battalion, that is said to be Nazi-affiliated organization operating as a militia in your country, said to be committing their own atrocities.
Azov was one of those many battalions. They are what they are.
In 2018, Azov's sister organization called National Druzhina was rolled out. It became a modern equivalent to Hitler's brown shirts and pledged undying loyalty to Beletsky. It wasn't long before they also began to terrorize Ukraine's minority populations.
The Druzhina quickly distinguished itself by carrying out pogroms against the Roma and LGBT organizations and storming a municipal council. Earlier this year, Kiev announced the neo-Nazi unit will be monitoring polls in next month's presidential election.
Ukraine's former interior minister and close friend of Beletsky quickly gave National Druzhina his full support, while the growing piles of human rights abuses began to grow even faster.
A man with a mental disability was subject to cruel treatment, rape and other forms of sexual violence by 8 to 10 members of the Azov and Donbass battalions in August-September 2014.
a resident of Mariupol, was detained by 3 servicemen of the Azov battalion. He was continuously interrogated and tortured. He complained about being handcuffed to a metal rod and left hanging on it. He was reportedly tortured with electricity.
Abductions, robberies, extortions, executions. Amnesty International pleaded with Kiev to get a leash on its neo-Nazis, but to no avail. In 2018, the U.S. banned sending weapons to the Azov battalion. But as a National Guard unit, it could still receive military aid intended for the Ukrainian government. A year later, U.S. Democrats tried to add it to the country's list of foreign terror organizations, but yet again, they failed.
It's clear that the threat we face today is of a self-radicalized gunman. Somebody who has been radicalized online, whether it's in accordance with jihadi ideology or a global white nationalist, neo-Nazi group.
Take a look at the tactics of the Ukrainian military and ISIS, for example. You'd be hard-pressed to tell them apart. Human shields, torture, prisoner executions. The New York Times, which typically tries to whitewash the crimes of these neo-Nazi regiments, even verified one of the many videos portraying them on the internet as undoubtedly authentic.
He's still alive. Film these marauders. Look, he's still alive. He's gasping. A man says as a Russian soldier with a jacket pulled over his head, apparently wounded, is seen still breathing. A soldier then shoots the man twice. After the man keeps moving, the soldier shoots him again, and he stops.
And the minute Russia steps in saying it actually wants to put an end to these injustices that people have complained about for so many years, all of a sudden, neo-Nazis are given a free pass.
For the time being, we are making a narrow exception for praise of the Azov Regiment strictly in the context of defending Ukraine, or in their role as part of the Ukraine National Guard.
To many in the West, neo-Nazis have become nationalists. War criminals have become patriots. How easily people have put 8 years of crimes and terror out of sight and out of mind just to stick it to Russia.
Fab. For the time.
And that is why. Yeah, so let's show that slide, Oz. Because I wanted to highlight that one. Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. For the time being, we are making a narrow exception for praise of the Azov Regiment, strictly in the context of defending Ukraine or in their role as part of the Ukrainian National Guard. So we're going to be okay with Nazis just this once because we are supporting Ukraine and we hate Russia. Yeah. Right? Like, I mean, this is right, the insanity that we're living in. And yes, and he's right. They're so easily comparable to ISIS. Like I was talking about that commercial. I'm talking about the war crimes, what they do, sodomizing people, raping people, tying them to poles. We have seen the countless images. We talked about that video where they were shooting the guy that was gasping for air. We've seen the intents, of course, that we're going to talk about also their attempts to have other false flags. This is international war crimes. And of course, our weapons and our funding is aiding in this, making the United States entirely complicit. And it's disgusting. They are what they are. They are what they are. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And I got to say, though, that, like, you know, channels like us, channels like the Gray Zone that we're bringing in right now, or Mint Press, people like Dan Cohen, it's so needed, right? Like, because a lot of the people, for instance, today, I peeked on Getter. I said, what are they talking about over there? Plenty of talk about what's going on with possibly the boop situation coming back into play, but they're not talking about Ukraine the way we need to be talking about Ukraine. We have to start taking some accountability and start demanding that these regime change wars, these occupations, these going in there and funding these proxy wars, we need to stop. We need to stop it because it eventually will come back home and haunt us here. And I've said this before about white ISIS, white ISIS, white ISIS, white ISIS. Take a look, a little quick clip. This is what happens when you you thrust or you spread or fund this type of radicalness into these countries. Look what happens. You got the video? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I mean, the United States has aided rebels for a long time. You can talk about, you know, jihadists. You can talk about the white helmets that they tried to call these moderate rebels. You can talk about Nazis that they were protecting before the war and after. right? And you can talk about the fact that I even posted this video today. This gentleman from Ukraine was saying how the Nazis, not all of them were taken out. Like these are like literal people descended from that time that were hiding out into the late 50s. So
I play it.
Ведь детям еще в детском садике объяснили, почему плохо быть Машей или Петей.
Мариночка, ти будеш різати русню? Да. Що ти будеш робити?
Очевидно, что семья маргинальная, но политика, которую проводят современные украинские власти, приводит к тому, что подобные частные случаи становятся реальной силой, которая...
Я буду резать русню. Я буду резать русню.
Grab the Russian. Get the Russian. You see what happens? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great guest with us today. Good friend of ours. Amazing pieces. Just wrote a great article for Mint Press. Dan Cohen is with us today. How you doing, Dan?
I'm all right. Kind of shaken up by everything going on with Gonzalo, but it's important that we talk about it. So, glad to be on with you all.
Yeah, I think that's why we just said it's an important thing. I called Fam right away. I said, Fam, maybe we should call Dan, get him on the show. He wrote this article not too long ago, kind of describes the culture of what's going on in the Ukraine, these tactics, these thuggish mafioso cartel tactics. The article you wrote says testimony reveals Zelensky's secret police plot to liquidate opposition figure Anatoly Shari. Did I say his name right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's Anatoly Shari, but I don't even know exactly how it's the proper pronunciation is, but yeah.
Yeah. You want to tell us a little bit about what your findings were and what's going on in Ukraine?
Yeah, well, so Anatoly Shari is a pretty prominent opposition figure in Ukraine who's been in exile in the EU, exiled from Ukraine since 2012. So, a couple of years before the Maidan coup, he was in Lithuania, and then, basically his asylum was revoked there, which was pretty remarkable. And now he's in Spain. And Anatoly, basically, he's like a blogger journalist who in 2019 founded a libertarian political party that is not huge in numbers, but is kind of important, in parliamentary politics. If you want to build a coalition, those smaller parties can be really helpful, really important. And so he actually helped Zelensky get elected originally. He kind of, believed Zelensky's claims that, he was going to stamp out corruption, and Zelensky really portrayed himself as outside of politics and, not from kind of the old guard. And so Shari supported him on that, as far as he presented himself, and really his base, his activists were attacking, not literally physically attacking, but, we're going to Poroshenko events and trolling him. And it's a lot of young people, young professionals, and, young business, small, medium business owners, these kinds of people. So, it's kind of like maybe tech type people that are Shari's constituency. And so they were really effective in disrupting Poroshenko's campaign and helped get Zelensky into power. And then as soon as Zelensky got into power, he basically screwed them and just started, going after the opposition and so actually also since 2012, before 2012, Shari has been exposing Nazi networks throughout Ukraine, which of course have, long been there, largely thanks to the US and the CIA. So Nazis hate him. And so, when Zelensky came to power, he basically, he's the head of state in this semi-Nazi state. And so Shari was, criticizing him and as he turned out to be just a total farce and just as corrupt, if not more corrupt than his predecessors. And so at the same time, and so basically Zelensky sicked, the SBU Ukraine's like Gestapo, which is basically run by Nazis. And they sicked him on Zelensky's people, his activists. And so Zelensky's in Spain, and he's had there was a Ukrainian Nazi who was a wanted criminal that the SBU sent to Spain to basically harass Cherie. Cherie, I don't know exactly why, but this guy ended up confessing to Catalan police that he was sent to kill Cherie. And so all this has been going on, and then I got testimony from two people who were in this like Ukrainian prison in, basically it's part of the headquarters of the SBU in Kiev, and this big like complex. There's a gym that's attached to it, and they've turned that into like a prison where they detain people and torture them. And so when they created the territorial defense, which is basically just a bunch of ultra-nationalist, like fascist civilians that at the beginning, if you remember, they gave a bunch of weapons to civilians and said, we're going to defend from the Russians, some Russian invasion into Kiev that, hasn't happened. Instead, they just basically, settled old scores. A bunch of, prisoners, criminals were all going around, killing people for old disputes, this kind of thing. And they've also just been looking for anyone who speaks Russian or anything like that. So this guy, who I just call Igor, I use a pseudonym to protect his identity. He gets swept up, brought into this SBU torture prison, and they tortured him. They put a lighter to a needle, stuck it under his fingernails. He told me. Really pretty horrible stuff. They beat him. He's forced to sleep with handcuffs on, blindfolded all the time, this kind of thing. He described accounts of beating of Russian prisoners of war. He was able to basically see under his blindfold when he laid down. He said that 2 men from Belarus were beaten to death. And he said basically that he got it lighter than most others. And so essentially when they found in his phone a video of Cherie, they brought in a department of the SBU that is specifically devoted to going after, political opponents of Zelensky and, the regime. And so he said that basically they kind of changed. They were like then nice to him and wanted to kind of butter him up and send him to Spain to go surveil, to cozy up to Cherie and basically tell the SBU. And he said that there was an SBU handler in Spain he would be in touch with, and just basically tell him everything he's doing, help him with whatever he needs in order to maintain proximity. And then, talk about, what he does day to day, who he's with, where he goes, what he eats, these kinds of things. And, he said, basically, this guy, Igor, told me, once they wanted me to do that, I knew they were basically preparing to assassinate Cherie, which, would not be the first time. So that they've plotted that, and then it didn't work out. So basically he was released, and he hung out in Kiev and basically rested for some days. And then he traveled, and the SBU basically arranged for him to travel into the EU, because it's impossible for Ukrainian males, because they're all conscripted 18 to 65. It's forced conscription for Ukrainian military. So you have to go, fight next to the Azov battalion. If you're a 60-year-old man, just imagine that. You have to go fight Russia. And so he managed to get to another European country that I decided to not identify. I just don't want to risk this guy's, security, his safety at all. And he's just hanging out there in total limbo and doesn't even know what to do, doesn't have any income, doesn't know what to do with himself. And, he basically emailed Cherie, the Ukrainian opposition figure, and just told him what happened. And it just confirmed the suspicion from Cherie, because I should have said before, Cherie, when this guy Igor was in prison, the SBU took his email and wrote to Shari and said, "Hey, can I come? You know, I'm going to come to Spain. Can you help me out?" And blah blah blah. So, so you know, it just shows how the SBU operates. And actually, and I got another, you know, there's another testimony in my piece that just confirms this, you know, what goes on in this prison. And then it's also been documented by the UN and by Amnesty International. So, you know, there's no real, it's not like controversial if this thing exists or not. It's totally documented. I just got these, you know, these accounts. And so, you know, it just kind of shows what the SBU is. It's CIA trained, basically CIA run, just Gestapo type, you know, gangsters and Nazis running the show. And
so they have close links to Azov then as well, SBU, or at least that ideology when they're recruiting members for the SBU, correct?
Yeah, and Right Sector and C-14, all of those like neo-Nazi kind of, you know, what formerly were street groups prior to Maidan, and that, you know, once then you have the coup, then they were kind of, you know, brought into the government, security agencies, all this stuff. So yeah, SBU draws heavily from these like Nazi paramilitaries, I think we should call them.
Yeah, what do you say about the comparison between the paramilitary Nazis and ISIS? Do you think that is a fair comparison?
I mean, today there was a screen grab going around from one of the this guy whose name escapes me at the moment, but a prominent Nazi. What's that?
I was going to say, I think we have that screen grab as well.
Yeah, where he says, like, I mean, you know, maybe we want to wait to get into the Gonzalo situation, but he talks about beheading Gonzalo. So like, these are totally, it's the corollary is totally there. These guys are just straight up, you know, like vanilla ISIS, whatever. I mean, they're just straight up Nazis, and there's no sugarcoating it. And I mean, it's just incredible to watch the normalization of this stuff and to be like, well, you know, I mean, you know, Ro Kahana, that whole thing, just embracing Nazis, where it was like they used, you know, US media and politicians used to say they were Nazis, and Democrats, like a few Democrats would say, maybe we shouldn't arm them. And now it's just like full on embrace of these Nazis, and, you know, the government, all the politicians, the media class, they know what they are, but they're just so dedicated. It's like, instead of saying supporting Nazis, you know, we just say fighting Russia.
Exactly.
And then that, you know, so it's
justifies everything, you know, and then they can sell it to the public that way. You know, we saw Blackwater was involved with some of the training of the Ukrainian forces. Have we had any direct connections from the SBU to our intelligence agencies, financing, training, anything like that yet?
Yeah, they're the CIA. So the SBU, I mean, I linked to an article in my report that says that I mean, it's known. Look, the CIA has trained Ukrainian, you know, fascists, Nazis, going back to, you know, basically post World War II, in order to, you know, be able to fight the Soviet Union. And so that didn't, you know, really work out. But the U.S. has basically maintained those links for a long time. And yeah, so now the CIA trains the SBU. According to that report that I have in my article, there's an entire floor of the SBU headquarters is actually for the CIA in Kiev. So, I mean, you know, there's no doubt whatsoever that basically the SBU, this Gestapo force, is a project of the CIA. And, you know, you got to really wonder, are the shots being called of what it's doing from day to day? You know, are those shots being called like, what, 5 miles away from me in Langley? I don't know, but it's I mean, it's just beyond disturbing. It's just criminal.
Yeah, it is. And it worries us too, because, you know, a lot of us have been communicating with Gonzalo. I've had him on our show. He's been very communicative and informative, and suddenly he's not responding. And so, you know, we really don't know what's going on. But there was this post that you made, right? I think it's 17. This post that you made where you kind of highlighted what he talked about on March 20th when he put out a list of names, when he said, if you want to learn the truth about Zelensky's regime, Google these names. If you haven't heard from me in 12 hours or more, put my name on this list. So he, multiple times that I've talked to him, or that we've talked to him as well, he has said that he was afraid of getting having a mark on his name, on his person. And you said extremely troubling that real Gonzalo Lira, a U.S. citizen in Ukraine, has disappeared from social media. He was scheduled to interview me last Friday about Zelensky's SBU kidnapping and assassinating dissidents, and now I fear he has become its latest victim. Where is Gonzalo Lira? That hashtag has been pushed out. Just want to hear from you. What's your last interaction, and what do you think is happening, and how worried we should be, in your opinion?
Well, Gonzalo contacted me on Wednesday to, schedule an interview after my piece came out. And he has a pretty big following, and, so his videos, I mean, a lot of people have been looking to Gonzalo to understand Ukraine. He's put out just, videos that just blow up. And he's been an incredible source of information and analysis on what's going on, being someone, who's been in the country and understands it. And so, obviously I was more than happy to go on his channel. And so, when we were starting, I just messaged him on Telegram, like, hey, Gonzalo, all good? We're doing this. I'm on, ready when you are. And then I started realizing, like, wait a minute, after a little bit, like, it's been, he hasn't tweeted, he hasn't been active. And if, I'd seen his pinned tweet saying, if it's been more than 12 hours, then, you should be concerned, or, whatever it says, exactly, basically 12 hours. So, I was like, I don't know, maybe we should give him a little bit longer. I'm kind of pondering it. And then it's like the next day, like, okay, this isn't right. Because he's a very active guy online, and probably there's not a lot to do otherwise where he is. And, in Ukraine, just basically hiding from these SBU Nazis. And so, he just didn't return any of my messages on Twitter or Telegram. And I could see, people are already starting to tweet about it. And I didn't want to be like alarmist, and, but so I was kind of like, should I say something? And finally it's like, what, we have to say something. And he could be in, extreme danger. And that appears to be the case. And I mean, now, I don't know if you all saw that CNN Chile, there's an entire channel in Chile of CNN. They've confirmed that, the article has nothing, but it's Chilean authorities are, in touch with relevant authorities, something like that. It's in Spanish, but, so, there's that. And then there's everything that's, going around online that it's hard to know what's true, but there's that. I mean, first I want to give a special shout out to this guy. Let me pull him up.
Juan.
Oh, that Juan Sin Miedo, he's been doing good.
Yeah.
But no, this guy, Mark Hay, I have him on my, I don't know if anyone can see, but Mark Hay, I think people should blow him up on Twitter and email, and just tell him what they think of his Daily Beast article called "How a Sleazy American Dating Coach Became a Pro-Putin Shill in Ukraine," about Gonzalo. So agitating against Gonzalo from about just less than a month ago. It's just shameless. And now, this guy's basically raising his profile as like some Russian agent. And now he's been apparently disappeared by the SBU, and we don't even know if he's alive. So this guy, Mark Hay, just deserves the worst.
Could you send that to me in the DM, and we'll get that up, because me and Fee were asking before the show started, what does the Daily Beast, what did they do? And now you're pointing out to me they wrote this whole particular article putting a bullseye on his back.
Exactly.
And the Daily Beast is the Daily Beast. This is Chelsea Clinton on the board over here and whatnot. The Daily Beast has come after a lot of us, the dirtbag, all-star leftists. These people are the worst, and they don't give a damn.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. So, it looks like he's not even active on Twitter. This guy Mark, I just sent it to you Pasta, but this guy is like not even active on Twitter for obvious reasons. But you know, I mean, they need to be just embarrassed. They need to be ashamed. So you know, it's hard to know what exactly is happening right now. It's pretty clear, you know, Gonzalo is not, you know, is not in a good situation. And, you know, we saw there's like this account from this Nazi who was he was one of the first people in Bucha. And I don't know if
Alexo B.
Yeah, exactly. And so now he's gone into hiding, but that account Juan Sin Miedo, which I've tweeted, you know, if you look on my timeline, I have it, but he basically says, you know, there's one picture where he says like flex your muscle or something if you know where Gonzalo is, and there's a picture of a guy flexing, and then
we have
and then talk
if
about
you want to show 19, and then we'll show what he's talking about so people can see it while he's talking. Yeah. So this is the Juan Sin Miedo, which literally means fearless.
Yeah.
And so he said, from the Twitter account of infamous Ukrainian neo-Nazi boatsman, remember his name, he was in the first group of troops to enter Bucha. Gonzalo Lira is most likely has been taken by them. He's watching here just now, by the way. And so then he proceeds to put on the Bots Manuel Lexel B guy. If anyone knows where Gonzalo Lira is, please make a single bicep pose. Then is the next one, 20. And then, so he's like, they're like celebrating this, right? And then he
and you see you see Azov on the guy on the right. You see the Azov wolf's angle on his jacket. So it's, you know, confirmed, straight up Nazis.
Yeah, straight up Nazis. And then the crab that
what is
when
that?
He quote tweets Peter Gilbert. An unconfirmed report today in a comment by Oleg Petrov on Lira's Telegram channel says that Lira has been killed. So, and the crab just means it's stupid. It's like dancing crab is like you're happy that, you know, that this is happening. Yeah.
She's the young man, I tell you.
So
22.
Yeah, and then he just says the irony of Gonzalo Lira, Chilean, being caught by a guy with the call sign Chile is hilarious. Anyway, let's hope the beheading pops up on Telegram soon. So is there a possibility that this is like he's just trolling? Because, you know.
I don't know. That's what I was wondering. You know, when I came across that, it's like it seems like he's kind of trolling, but it's like it's such a serious situation that it's like, well, yeah, I just said there's no way to verify this, but it's really serious. So you know, and this guy, I mean, you know, these are Nazis who will behead people. And actually, somebody tweeted at me a picture of a guy who apparently that same Nazi beheaded a Russian like 10 years ago or 12 years ago. And there, you know, there's a Wikipedia link I got to follow. I'll tweet about it after the stream. But that, you know, this guy actually did behead someone. So, you know, I really hope it is trolling. But I don't know. I really worry that it's not.
Yeah. And I think also, I don't know if you might have mentioned this, but somebody mentioned this on slide 24. Somebody said somebody is definitely working Gonzalo's phone, or every now and then he's online. And in the past 10, somebody canceled more than 300 comments. It looks like somebody has hacked his account. So it's like I said, like you said, it's just hard to know. But like when somebody reads your thing or somebody sees it, the Telegram post, the check marks appear, like as it's been seen. So there are people saying that it seems like he has looked at these messages. There are people, you know, posing as Gonzalo that aren't him. It's really hard to tell, but we are all like trying to figure it out. And you're not the only one. I mean, I think other journalists too have contacted him. I think I heard Eva Bartlett talk about it, Vanessa Beeley, also George Galloway was left without, he didn't appear on his show, just multiple people that have tried contacting him. So yeah, It's worrisome, especially when we put that in the context of your article and in the context of all the war crimes that are being committed and just upheld and glorified as necessary because we hate Russia. It's disgusting. It's really like, I just, it's hard to talk about how insane this is, where we're trying to tell people like these are actual paramilitary fascists, like especially the people who have spent, the last few years hyper focusing on Trump supporters, as being like the main issue. It's just the peak.
Yeah,
right.
I also want to point out real quick, Danny, before, and I'll hand the mic right to you, that the Congress has already banned military weaponry aid to Nazis, to neo-Nazi groups, but yet now it's thrown out the window because of why? Anything against Russia. Go ahead.
Yeah. I forgot what I was gonna say before that, but I mean, there are a bunch of people who have been talking about this, and it's important that as many people as possible just continue to open our mouths and just not shut up and just make a stink. Noticeably, not a single member of the political class has said anything about I mean, as far as I understand, I'm pretty sure that Gonzalo is a U.S. citizen. Maybe he has dual citizenship with Chile, but it's like nobody's saying anything here. The Chileans are putting out some statement with CNN before the U.S. is, which good for Chile that they should do that, even though I don't expect that Chile will actually do anything to help Gonzalo or make any demands or anything like that. But I mean, that's just shocking that the U.S., assuming he is a U.S. citizen, is not saying anything publicly. But it reminds me of like when Israel kills like Palestinian Americans. It's basically the State Department yawns. They'll put out some like little statement a few days later or something like that. But I mean, the U.S. loves Nazis. It's just like, it's undeniable. And the fact that media and politicians used to talk about it, but now they don't. Now it's like that's all just forgotten. That all got memory hold is just, I mean, it's infuriating, but it just shows how incredibly cynical the machine is here. That it doesn't even matter, who. It's like, okay, Ro Khanna, he like has his faults and everything, but at least he was talking about Nazis, but now he just gave that up completely because it's just disgusting
because of the radical left.
Yeah. I mean, it's like
that's you, Dan. You're part of the radical left. That's what we're talking about.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And his deleted tweets. Brave guy. So I mean, I don't know. It's just it's disheartening, but I guess it's not really surprising. And I just hope that Gonzalo turns up safely.
Yeah, and any journalist right now, you have Patrick Lancaster who's been covering PL News, like doing phenomenal work on the ground. You have a bunch of other independent journalists too, and it's scary. It's scary to think that anybody, whether they're just blogging about it or journaling about it or writing about it or filming it, whatever they're doing, is going to be silenced. Obviously, we know, as we were just in DC talking about Julian Assange, that this is nothing new, but it is still scary when it's happening to somebody so close that has been just a plethora of information. And you're right, we absolutely need to be talking about it and continue screaming about it. Pasta, did you get that screen up there?
Which screen?
The screenshot, what Dan sent you.
I'll get it up there, right? And the Daily Beast.
Oh, okay.
It's the Beast article. Let me just put it. Oz, I'm just going to link it really quick and let you get it. I was seeing guys, and I don't know if it's true. Some people were saying that there were outlets been confirming Gonzalo, the death of Gonzalo. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if we could confirm it, but they're saying, other than that group over there. Let me see if I can grab that really quickly, Oz. I just paste the link in 25. If you can go ahead and grab that. That's the Daily Beast article that Dan was talking about.
Look, Oh man, there's there's a tweet. Actually, apparently he did a video on March 21st saying the Daily Beast is trying to get me killed.
Yeah,
Gonzalo
I
did.
saw that, but when was the last time people heard about him or heard him?
When's the last time people heard what?
Yeah,
Sorry.
when was the last when was the last communication? I think anybody had with him, was it a couple days ago?
Yeah, mine was I guess Thursday evening was the last time he messaged me. Thursday evening, yeah, East Coast time, because he, just gave me some little instructions for joining his live stream. And so when I wrote to him, when we were supposed to start, he didn't get the messages for, or at least, what is it with Telegram? When it's 2 checks, that means you've seen it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's, yeah. So it was basically 1 check for a while. And then when I looked again, I think yesterday, then I saw it was 2 checks, and I was like, so that means probably somebody has his phone. And then on his Telegram channel, his like broadcast channel, it said that, I was trying to like look at the comments on his last post to see, if there's anything, people are saying anything. And it said it was like overloaded with like pornography. And so, it can't be accessed. And so I don't know if it's getting like spammed or what, but I mean, it's just impossible to know what's going on. It's such a crazy thing. So,
Oz, did you get the article?
It's there.
Just put it up and we'll scroll through it a little bit and just show.
Yeah, so it's just a shit article. It's disgusting. Yeah, I mean, he peddled sexist, vile, and toxic relationship advice within a subculture populated by men's rights activists and incels while living in Ukraine. Then the invasion started. I mean, if this is the kind of journalism that's just like, it's just trash. This is just trash. I mean, I don't even know if it's worth pasta like going around. It's just a smear piece. This is what they do.
I just feel like it's important, that guy, like people should call the Daily Beast and like email them. And that guy, what's his name? This asshole. Can I curse on here? This guy.
Mark Hay.
Yeah, Mark Hay. I mean, that guy should be run out of journalism. Should but that's granted, what he didn't do journalism. He just did a propaganda hit piece.
That's all they ever do over there to Daily Beast. That's all they're good.
Yeah, exactly. So,
wow.
I mean, I can't find these other tweets too as well. I'm kind of looking for that, but I think that there have been some reports that Gonzalo might be, and I'm not talking about the ones we show with the possible trolls. There was somebody who put up a CNN Chilean thing.
Oh, really?
That doesn't say he's dead. I mean, I have it right here. I can send it to you if you want. It just says.
Let me see if that's it. Somebody had it in the chat and they took it down. So, if anybody,
maybe it wasn't correct.
If anybody has anything, stick it in the chat. Let us see it, and we'll go from there. Thank you guys so much too, as well. I'm just so concerned because from your article alone, Dan, just thinking about what possibly could have happened when it came to Gonzalo, what they would have done to him. These guys are sick, twisted fucks. Excuse my French for cursing out there, but they're sick, twisted psychopaths. And what they would have done to Gonzalo, it's just, it's scary. It's scary. And it should anger everybody. This is a real journalist over here that's getting.
It's an American citizen, and I mean, we're complicit, right? So it's so troubling, especially on a human level too, of, having Gonzalo talk about this and being like, he just brought so much good information. And it's on a human level, it is disturbing as, it's just on that level alone. But Dan, is there anything else you'd like to share about your article? Anything else you're working on that you want the audience to know about?
Nothing at the moment. Just kind of keep my ear to the tracks and see what I come across. But yeah, just everyone who's watching, just make your voice heard. Tweet, call the State Department, demand that they investigate, use their power to find out what's going on with Gonzalo. And just don't be silent.
Call the squad, tell them to have a press conference and talk about Gonzalo, please.
Yeah.
The
fraud squad needs to.
Journalists, free press. Where you at, right? Where you at?
Exactly.
Well, Dan, thanks so much for coming on and for your great article. Keep it up, and I'm sure we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Later, Dan. Thanks for coming on such a short notice, buddy.
No problem.
All right.
Wow.
This sucks. This is just terrible, man. I mean, really, to tell you the truth, I'm so it's in my head, right?
Yeah.
Thinking about what's happening and what's going on. And
yeah, I mean, I really hope that we're all entirely wrong and nothing bad happened. But
I pray to God. I pray to God.
Yeah.
I don't even pray to God.
Sam,
super raise real quick.
It's just one, I think.
Is two.
Oh.
By the way, almost 700 people checking it on out at the Combo Couch YouTube. Get on over to the Rockfin. That's ROKFIN, and we love you. By the way, it's from Trey Wright. First one in here. Anyone with the Ukrainian flag in their name should be ashamed. What do you think about that, Sam?
I mean, I agree. You have the freedom of speech in my book to put a Ukrainian flag, but just know what you're representing.
Yep. Keep Left says, I think part of the reason America is so easy to propagandize is that the level of censorship had not been around while most of us were growing up. As H.L. Mencken wrote, freedom of the press is limited to those who own one. However, until recently, there were still investigative reporters and local outlets who bucked the system. So like the frog in the warm water, America just doesn't not notice it.
Right. I see what they were trying to say.
Yeah.
It's like the frog analogy, right? They're just so in it. By the time
boiled.
they realize they're getting boiled, it's too late.
Too late.
Yeah. Guys, this is a really quick section, but I think I'm going to put this out there because we're clairvoyant here. We're psychic here. No. Yet another false flag, fam. Ukraine is planning yet another false flag to come.
Nope.
The Russians are on it. Again, I talk about chess all the time, this analogy, because the Russians are really good at chess. And they have a lot of intelligence that has been looking at Ukraine's actions as to how they're trying to create these false flag attempts. So this is from the Russian Ministry of Defense. According to their sources, the Kiev regime is preparing another monstrous provocation similar to the one that we saw in Kramatorsk. And before that, remember the one in Bucha, to accuse Russian servicemen of the so-called war crimes with massacres of civilians. To this end, battalion of the 19th Separate Missile Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces will soon launch a Tochka-U attack on an area of refugees concentration at the railway station in Lozovaya. The missiles will be launched from Staromilk-Pavlovka direction to simulate a strike from the territory allegedly controlled by the Russian Armed Forces and Donetsk People's Republic formations. Such actions by Ukrainian authorities once again demonstrate an inhuman attitude towards the fate of its own citizens and show a complete disregard for all norms of morality and international humanitarian law. Because even though you're at war, there's still a protocol that you must follow to have humanitarian actions, even in war. And that has all been just blasted away, completely ignored and
thrown out the window, fam.
And the United States, which talks about China and the Uyghurs, that talks about Venezuela and the dictator Maduro and the evil Vladimir Putin and talked about Castro for so long, and I mean just on, or Daniel Ortega, Nicaragua. What is going on in Ukraine? What Zelensky has allowed and pushed for, even the people in power right now in Ukraine, and what they're doing, these actual paramilitary fascists that are there, not just silence from the Beltway, the DC Beltway, and the State Department, and the Department of Defense, and the pundits, and the morons of the mainstream media, propagandists, regurgitators, but also silence from the liberals who support their beloved Democratic Party, silence from the progressives who have done nothing but smear people like Gonzalo and anybody actually doing on the ground journalism there, and mockery, focusing on whatever X issue somebody had or whatever. The same thing with Scott Ritter. I mean, it's just the same exact bullshit. Let's character assassinate. Let's talk about everything but what these people are talking about. And so what that does is discredit the witness, because now, it's about Gonzalo being creepy or whatever that dumb article was. And so that is the hypocrisy that we're dealing with, which is why it's so enraging. And then they try to frame it like, oh, it's the Russians are going to do this. But here you go. They say, we stress in particular that Toshka-U tactical missiles are only used by the Ukrainian armed forces. Taking the above into account, we warn the countries of the so-called, quote, unquote, civilized West, led by the U.S. in advance, that the Russian Federation has an evidence base of another terrible crime being prepared by the Kiev regime. Colonel General Mikhail Mizintsev, head of the Russian Federation Joint Coordination Headquarters for Humanitarian Response, head of the National Center for State Defense Control of the Russian Federation. So that was what was said specifically earlier today, Russia time. And just look out for that. Look out for the next false flag. Get ahead of it. Understand how this works. Understand that they use civilians, that they don't care about Ukrainians. NATO doesn't care. Zelensky doesn't care. There was a meme, I think, was it Wyatt that posted the meme or somebody else, where it was the king from Shrek. And I'm prepared. It was like the meme where he goes like, I'm prepared to sacrifice all of you. Like, they don't care about their own people. They don't care about the Ukrainians. They don't care about the Russians. They don't care about anything, any human life. It is irrelevant to them. These are fascists. These are psychopaths. And all of these people that have paraded around saying they're anti-fascist for however long and how they hate Nazis, where the fuck is your outrage? That's what I would like to know. Where is your outrage when these war crimes are being committed? Where is it? Where I don't see it. I haven't seen them. We're over here. They're actually yelling at us saying that we're talking about Azov too much. Why are they talking about Azov? Why are they talking about Nazis so much? Yeah. Oh, I thought we opposed Nazis like a few months ago. Wait a minute.
Yeah, and the thuggery, the murder, the death, the tactics, the SBU, which Dan just talked about. Fam, remember we used to say, what's the difference between conspiracy theory and the truth? About 6 months.
It was 6 months to a year.
Now it's like 10 days to a week or whatever, whatnot, right?
Yeah.
And, I know you know this. I'm a newspaper guy. And every newspaper guy, any serious newspaper guy needs a newspaper hat. And I just got to tell you something, fam. I saw something today. As you're talking about another false flag, more and more information has to come to light. It's just like Victoria Nuland. She had to go out there and face the truth and speak the fact is like, oh, they have biological research facilities. You just said they didn't have them. Oh, they're research facilities. But if anything bad happens, it was the Russian who did it. Well, as a newspaper guy, I like to read the mainstream newspaper because it tips off the hat of the propaganda they're about to say. It says, ultimatum is rejected right here. And it's very kind of cool, fam, because inside this article, it says, Ukrainian fighters who were holed up in a steel plant in the last known pocket of resistance inside the shattered city of Mariupol ignored a surrender or die ultimatum from Russia on Sunday and held out against the capture of the strategically vital port. Fam, were we not just talking about a Russian steel plant? Were we not just talking about the tunnels underground? Were we not just talking about Pit 404? The fall of Mariupol, the site of the merciless 7-week-old siege that has reduced much of the city to a smoking ruin, would be Moscow's biggest victory in the war yet and free up troops to take part in the battle for the control of Ukraine's industrial east. Capturing the south, and this is where it gets very interesting, fam. Capturing the southern city would also allow Russia to secure the land corridor to the Crimean Peninsula, which it seized from Ukraine in 2014, and deprive Ukraine of a major port and its prized industrial assets. As its missiles and rockets slammed into other parts of the country, Russia estimated that 2,500 Ukrainian troops and about 400 foreign mercenaries were dug in at the Azovstal steel mill, which covers more than 4 square miles and is laced with tunnels. Many Mariupolian civilians, including children, are also sheltering at the Azovstal plant. Mikhail Vershahen, head of the city's natural patrol, told Mariupol television on Sunday. He said they're hiding from Russian shelling and from occupying Russian soldiers, fam. So they're already starting to leak that there are tunnels underground, that they've been hiding there, that's what's going on. And when a lot of people were saying, oh my God, you guys are kind of crazy. There's no tunnels underground and a steel plant. This is more Russian propaganda. Here it is, fam. They're starting to admit it's at the steel mill. It's underground. That's where they're held up. They even mentioned the 400 foreigners that are there as well. We had talked and saw about reports from Pepe Escobar, right? Talking about how the fact is that, you know, there were French people there and there was an attempt to get the French out of there by their forces and whatnot. They're starting to admit it, fam. They get caught with their hands in the pocket and then they got to sing. They're going to try to do their narrative management, fam, but I don't know if it's going to work. They've been exposed and they got caught again.
Well, and not to mention that they use often what they do is they keep civilians in these places. And then when the civilians die inadvertently, or when they kill somebody they suspect of being a Russian asset or pro-Russian, or they do whatever XYZ wrong thing that they decide, and they wake up and they want to kill them, whatever, they use those bodies to say the Russians killed them. Yep. And again, the Tsunami missiles are not being used by Russia. There is zero evidence. If somebody wants to bring me some evidence where they have seen that the Tsunami missiles are being used by Russia, I'll get it. I have not seen any. Nobody has been able to show evidence of that. So that's of course regarding the Kramatorsk attack as well. So
yeah,
be on the lookout. We'll be on the lookout on this. We're constantly covering this because it's just nonstop. The lies that are so just vast in this whole thing, just like they were on the pandemic, and which is the next thing we're going to talk about. It's all part of the same machine. It's all part of the same mechanism. It's all part of the State Department, the military-industrial complex, and the global elite that are attempting to exert international jurisdiction, not just over the free press, but over everything, over every ounce of people's lives. So,
fam, we should probably go to Rockfin only on this one.
Yeah, probably.
With everything going on right now today, I think that pretty much as people are going to start making an outcry and start tweeting stuff about Gonzalo, they're going to start shadow banning, demonetizing, and taking people down. So this is the time, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over to Rockfin only and just talk about this last part. This is one of the most important things that we can continue to talk about right now. This is happening, ladies and gentlemen. The battle is in Geneva. There's going to be certain things that are taking place, the IHR, the international health regulations. And I always say, like, I like looking at the newspaper and the propaganda that the mainstream media does, because it's like a poker game. And they literally tip their hat all the time, fam. They have tells that you can smell stuff coming if you're paying attention to the propaganda they're putting out, because they're just trying to, at this point, it's all narrative management. It's all narrative control. You know what I'm saying? It's not even reporting at this time. They don't even have time to report about anything. They just got to try to control the narrative, control the narrative. And that's something right now they're going to try to control the narrative when it comes to this. Let's get over to Rockfin. We're going to leave YouTube. Are you ready?
You want to show the title so people know?
Yeah, show the title. It says right here, ladies and gentlemen, talk of the bird flu as the WHO proceeds with pandemic power grab only on Rockfin. So we are leaving YouTube in 5, in
Let's
4,
put the link.
in 3. Jilly Love, we love you. 2, in 1.